All right, here we are. We're doing this Tuesday night. I'm here with Jeff and Sarah. The Aztecs have won three straight to start conference, um, and they got a good road test at Colorado State tomorrow. Jeff, what do you think of a trip to Colorado State? How do you think they'll stack up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're still a little echoed and a little faint there.
Okay.
Maybe if you're closer to the microphone on the computer, it would be a little louder.
Okay.
There you go, that's
How
better.
about now? All right. So San Diego State had their three straight wins to start. And just to start, Jeff, what do you think of Colorado State as an opponent?
Colorado State is a different beast than I think we're used to. We're used to having them be run and gun with a lot of transfers. They had some heavy hitters with Bejarano and Avila in years past, and this year they don't have the same strength they used to. With that being said, the game tomorrow will still be interesting. You've got an Aztec team that's been relatively hot the last couple weeks. They're coming off, like you said, their third consecutive victory in conference and sitting right at the top. And they're playing well. This is probably the best we've seen the Aztecs play all year. My concern is going to be altitude. I think that when it comes to altitude, we normally play fairly well, but you never know how the young guys are going to react, and that's always the X factor. It's the two freshmen. Jeremy Hemsley.
Not tomorrow. All right, sorry about that. Um, I
No worries.
I watched them play Boise State. I think Colorado State's definitely legit. Um, I'm not worried about them. They don't defend all that well, which is comforting for knowing that the team is still kind of finding their bearings on offense. And both I looked at looking at Ken Pom his stats. Both teams basically play at the same pace. Um, so I don't. It shouldn't be a situation where they get out and run a bunch on us. Um, what do you, Jeff? What do you think of what's the primary option to start a road game? Is it Shepard on the block like he's been doing, or is it something else out of the gate?
I think it'll depend on how we come out. If we shoot well like we have in the last couple games, I think last game we shot at a 52% clip or 48% clip, which is unlike the Aztecs this far this season. Uh, I would continue shooting. I mean, if you're going to be hot, why not keep feeding uh, Kel and Hemsley? I think that the ball needs to go through Hemsley and at least go to Winston. I'd say every second or third possession to get touches inside. But at the same time, you have Zylan. I mean, Zylan, when it comes time to step up in big games, Zylan's proven that he can do that time and time again. Even though he's young, he's really the force and the engine behind the locomotive, so to speak. And I think that if he has the type of game that I hope he can have tomorrow evening, and I think a lot of Aztec fans know he's capable of having, we should get off to a 4-0 start, which would be one of the better starts we've had in conference.
Yeah, you mentioned Zylan. That's kind of weird because he hasn't really been given the ball in the post. Um, I don't think even more than two or three times in the first three conference games. Um, and that's really their best weapon is that they have three really big athletic wings that can take the ball down there and create space because they're so athletic once they go to the basket. Um, so it's been kind of weird seeing him not get so many touches, but Shepard's doing well. And you mentioned with Hemsley, but I kind of want to know if you've seen the same thing. I get kind of confused watching because they'll set a ball screen for Hemsley, but a lot of times they don't reset the floor first, so then he starts with that ball screen and he runs into someone. They don't space back out before the screen comes.
The spacing has been a bit off at times. I can't say that it's been that every way or every time, but with that in mind, you got to remember we still have a young team. I mean, relative to what most people think, yeah, we have some senior leadership on the team, or we have some senior latent players rather on the team that are starting to show leadership qualities and leadership ability. This is still a team that's run primarily by freshmen. This is, the Jeremy Hemsley. I don't want to say the Jeremy Hemsley show, but it's certainly his orchestra or pep band to conduct, if you will. Um, but he's doing a good job. I mean, he continues to grow game after game. I think last game, in the first half, he didn't have a single turnover, which is, I can't tell you the last time we've had a point guard not have a turnover in a game. It's been a long, long time. With that being said, the spacing is going to be off. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens when Matt Shrigley comes back. I know that he's been playing in practice a little bit. I don't know if it was with contact or without contact. I've heard both. I haven't had an opportunity to get over there and see it yet. But I know that he is itching to get back on the court. My question is going to be his cardio shape, which I got to think is going to be pretty well, knowing Matt and how hard he pushes himself, but also how quick it's going to take the rest to get off him. If he can come out and play strong like we all know he's capable of doing, that's another weapon that we haven't had, and we're definitely missing that go-to outside shooter. You also have to remember we have Ben Perez, another freshman, who has never played at altitude. And I know that in years past there's been discussion about a host of factors when we go to Colorado State. I had the privilege of going to watch a game a couple years back before the Kansas game at Colorado State, and that's a tough arena to play in. It gets loud, it's cold. You have all the weather elements, plus you have the time and the altitude. And you have a pretty talented squad with a coach that does a good job of making something out of very little. So there's always a threat there, when it comes to a Colorado State SDSU game in Fort Collins. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm expecting a close game. I think it'll, in a good way. I think it'll be a fun game. Um, we finally have started to see Dylan cheat on the open court. Um, I think it's kind of funny because um, like some of the ESPN broadcasters, they bring up that the team's known for running when they haven't really, kind of trying to, they're just finding their way towards pushing the pace a little bit more, especially off a miss. Just getting the ball and running with it instead of walking it up the court. So as that continues to happen more, that'll just create more extra scoring opportunities.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that. I think it's unique that we have as many players as we do, and that I hate to use the word deep, but we certainly have depth at positions where we haven't in the past. I'm not sure that we've utilized the depth that we have to its full potential quite yet. I know that, with 12 players that I've counted on the bench that can all get out and score and can run at, a host of different combinations, I think that might be something the Aztecs start looking at once they have all the player and personnel figured out, is really truly running that, what they call their fire offense, but getting out and pushing the ball up court and getting the easy baskets and using their athleticism to their ability, similar to what we saw in 2011, when they made the deep run in the championship. Now, do I think we have the talent we had back then? I think we do. Do I think we have the leadership? I think that's the one thing that has been missing up until conference started, and I think we're finally starting to see some of the seniors stepping up. Skylar's been a monster down low on the defensive end, and Winston step up in a big way, kind of all over the court. He's the one player, I think, that in the Mountain West that is a top 10 in every category. When it comes to points, when it comes to rebounds, assists, and he's doing a great job. There's a lot of stress and pressure put on him early, and I think he's finally starting to work out some of the kinks that he had, maybe mentally, that could have been there still from past years. But I think more than anything, everybody's kind of gelling finally, and I know that that's a term that the teams use quite a bit, and I think we've got an opportunity to do something pretty special here in San Diego and salvage and actually turn around and right a ship that most people, I think, probably were ready to jump off of after the less than amazing non-conference slate.
Now, what do you guys say about the fact that Skylar Spencer is not a scorer, and I kind of felt like he would have more contribution to scoring? Is his purpose defensive, period? Is that it?
I don't think it's necessarily his only purpose. I think that's what he specializes in for sure. You know, he is a big body that knows how to get up and protect the rim, which I know is something that is huge. I think he's still a guy that we haven't seen his best offensive game since he's been an Aztec yet. If you look back at the Lawrence, Kansas game, where I think he had either 10 or 12 points,
Exactly.
you had a bunch of athletic moments where he stepped up and played really well. I'm still waiting to see that Skylar Spencer come out again because I know he's capable of it. I think his focus might have been a little bit off. I think when, and again, this is pure speculation, but when the roster, or the starting five rather, got switched up early on, I think that kind of threw everybody into a frenzy. I think now that we've kind of settled it back in, where I believe it's Jeremy, Trey, Winston, Zylan, and Skylar. That is a potent combination, and I think once Skylar starts scoring like he's capable of doing, even if that's putbacks, you know, or dunks off of offensive rebounds, which I know he can also do, it's gonna change the way that teams have to guard us, because right now I think teams are going to do what they've been doing. We're going to see the same thing that we've been seeing, and that's having them sit back in a zone and let us try to shoot over them, and knowing that we haven't shot exceptionally well for most of the season, you know, that could be our weakness. But at the same time, you're seeing an Aztec team that's eating up, and offensively, you're seeing a lot of good things. You're seeing new sets. You're seeing them actually running a couple different plays and a couple different looks. They're getting very easy buckets, whether that be Utah or I think the other one they run against the zone is Oklahoma. They ran one this last time called box that I've never seen before that got them some easy looks down low. And I think that as the season continues to unfold and guys get more familiar with what their roles are, I think the team's only going to get better and stronger.
Yeah, with Spencer, I agree that there were some post-game remarks where Fisher kind of talked about his rebounding, and he's definitely recommitted himself to that, especially defensive rebounding. Sarah brought up the scoring. I mean, he's not a guy you just roll it to on the box 10 times a game. He's not a one-on-one player, but like you said, he's a guy that can run the floor. When his teammates can, kind of attack the offensive glass and put points back in. So his shot attempts will fluctuate as games go on. With the other senior, with Winston Shepard, I really liked how he seemed to be saying the right thing a lot at the start of the season, but he wasn't doing a lot of those things. To you, if you had to pick one, what was the biggest tick that you think he's finally starting to overcome?
Wow. I don't know. I think personally, knowing the type of player Winston is and how talented he is, I think it finally just ran its course. I think he had a lot of pressure on him. I think there were probably some outside factors that came into play. But when it comes time for conference, I think Winston finally got past whatever block was there. If it was a mental block, if it was attitude readjustment or whatever he had to do to get past it. I'm not sure. I wish I could say it was X, Y, or Z. I don't know that anybody really knows what it is. Maybe only Winston does. But for me, it was the aggressiveness. I mean, he is finally going out there with the confidence and dominance I think a lot of people saw he had in high school at Findlay Prep. Granted, he was surrounded by a cast of characters and talent that was superior to what most college teams have on it right now. It truly was and is, I think, at this point, him kind of tapping into what he knows he has always been there. And maybe it could be, that it's his senior year and he realizes that he's only got, call it maybe 18 or 20 games left in his career if they go all the way to the championship and make a deep run. And he's got to get out there and make a name for himself and really kind of show people and scouts and naysayers all alike, this is his season. This is his team, and he's ready to step up for the challenge.
Yeah, the one thing I liked with him, and it's not like there's just one reason for anything, but I like that he's making faster decisions with the ball.
Yeah.
His tendency to take a few dribbles and dance a little bit and then go try to do something kind of drove me nuts, because by then the whole defense was watching him. But now if he's catching, even if he's just going to catch it and shoot a three, if he shoots 2 or 3 a game, it's not going to kill the team. But just making fast decisions keeps the offense moving and keeps his teammates engaged, because they're not expecting him to just stop the ball.
No, I absolutely agree with that.
You mentioned some of the zone stuff. I don't know the names of them, but one that I liked was against the 2-3 they set Spencer set a high screen for Hemsley against the 2-3, and when Hemsley attacked it, I think 3 or 4 times against San Jose, he was able to whip it to the weak side to Trey Kell, who slid into the corner, which was vacated because teams had to worry about the lob to cheat him. I thought that's a great play for him.
You know, I don't know if that's Oklahoma or I don't know if that's just their defense, their diamond defense, where they run it a little bit deeper, or diamond offense rather. But I agree with you. Trey does a great job of ghosting or moving without the ball and running along the baseline, getting the open looks. And I think if we can continue to use our strengths to not only exploit the weaknesses that are very apparent when it comes to the conference teams, but also showcase our, what we do best. We're not going to have many teams that are as athletic and can keep up with us on the court, especially when it comes to coming off the bench. You know, I know that we haven't really talked about that yet, but Trey can certainly hit that shot. Ben Perez can certainly hit that shot. Dakari is a guy that we saw kind of have flashes and moments of brilliance early on that I still think is being underutilized at times. But I know that I'm certainly not Coach Fisher, and I'm not paid to coach the team, so I'm not going to second guess what he's doing. But I got to think that we still haven't seen the best of Dakari Allen yet either when it comes to his offensive ability, and slashing and making some pretty tough looks, that he made early on. But I truly think this team's underperformed to this point, and the last 3 games are finally just starting to see the potential that the Aztecs truly have. And I think that if they make a deep run in conference, we got a shot to have a fun postseason again, like I think most Aztec fans are used to.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Dakari Allen kind of hit a mini wall, just in the sense that he was hitting all of his threes right away, and then I mean, to me, you could see that teams were prepared for that, because then they were running him off the line. And then a few games in a row, they ran into some trouble because he was kind of forcing some drives. But the good thing was that his minutes stayed consistent. I mean, he was playing 23, 24 through all that. And I think he'll be big tomorrow, because I think they'll need him defensively, because I think Colorado State has 3 guys that can really be dangerous getting to the basket.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think as far as on-ball defenders come, Dakari's probably our number 1, followed by Winston, and then maybe Jeremy, that are healthy right now anyway. I know that it's kind of been our man-to-man defense has definitely been something that's been suspect at times, but Dakari's been the one guy who I think you're spot on. We'll need to play tomorrow night to kind of limit at least one of those guys from getting good looks and hopefully stifling that potent Colorado State offense.
Yeah, I agree that he's their number one stopper. I had one more thing before getting on to Boise, and I think it's something that applies to both. Is I'm not gonna, I don't want to overreact, and I don't want to drag it out, but there's something to say about Malik Pope, right? He's slowly showing more and more, and I haven't been concerned very much. I've tried to relax and just give it some time. What have your thoughts been over these last 2 games with him?
Man, I truly feel for Malik. You got a guy that has a potential to be the next big Kawhi Leonard. I think a little bit of stress, a lot of people in his ear, and stuff happening off the court might have got to him early. I think he lost his confidence in his shot early on when he didn't make a whole bunch of them, and I think he's kind of shooting himself through that funk. Finally, we saw he had 7 points in the first half last game, and finally was kind of true to form. Granted, his 3-point shooting has been suspect at best. I think that's going to pick up. I'm still waiting for him to be aggressive. It's the one thing that when you look out there, the guy's 6'10" or 6'11", whatever they claim in the thing. Maybe he's 6'9.5", 6'10", truly whatever when he's out there. But the guy's got uh, an amazing gift. He's got length, unlike anybody else in the court, and I think I'm hoping that maybe he's worked past his fear of re-injuring that leg. I think that might have been what it was early on. But again, without being Malik Pope, you really don't know. I know that it's frustrating at times because you know how much potential he does have. He showed flashes of brilliance last year, and there are even people that were talking about him getting drafted, as a lottery pick last year if he would have won. And then there were a lot of people this year early on saying, well, maybe he's a bust and it was a flash in the pan and it's not real. I truly believe Malik Pope has a talent ceiling that no one in San Diego can probably comprehend. You look at Kawhi Leonard, and after Kawhi's freshman year, everybody's going, wow, this guy's going to be good. I don't think any of us realized he's going to be MVP, good when it came time for the conference championship and the NBA championship. I think we have that same type of caliber player and a couple of guys on the court, but I think Malik's definitely could be one of those guys. I think it's just a matter of him working through his funk. And if you watch the last couple games, the one thing that's encouraging to me, not only was his scoring up this last game, but his defensive prowess and his IQ on the court are both going up. You can tell he's a little more cautious about who's where. You can tell he's a little quicker getting to the ball, where before he's always kind of been maybe half a step behind. And you're seeing some stuff that reminds me of former great players that played at San Diego State. Kyle Spain, Lorenzo Wade. Who else am I missing? There's been a handful of guys that have similar body types. Maybe they're a little bit bigger and muscular. Maybe that's what he needs, is put on a little bit of weight. But I think overall the guy is just itching to get out of this funk, and I think he's finally pretty close to where that could be a good possibility.
Yeah, my whole thing with him is, and I think I'm definitely on the extreme side of like um, believing in his potential. I think all that, all the stuff people are feeding into him is true, just not right now, of course, and that's where the perception problem is. It drives me nuts most of all that, and I know it's just people on a broadcast or people behind a screen, but people keep saying he's not a shooter. I mean that's his biggest skill. That's why NBA people are paying attention to him, because that he's 6'10" with shooting ability.
Yeah.
There's a difference between not being able to shoot and being in a slump.
Yeah.
Everyone hits a slump. No, if if Steve Fisher knew when he would magically, come out of it, we would have known by now, or it would have been fixed sooner.
I'll tell you what, I think you're spot on there, but most slumps aren't half a season. With that being said, I think you're right, though. I think he's maybe back-to-back three-pointers away from being back to the confident shooter we saw last year. I think right now he's still a little overly cautious, but again, that's to come because of what's happened this far.
Yeah, I mean, all the high praise and the predictions, it's I think Aztec fans can help themselves, because all that's going to come back when he has a few big games. It's not like that's gone forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I brought him up because with Boise, I think it would be huge for him to play well, because other than a freshman they have on their bench, um, looking for Zach Haney, um, he's kind of their backup big. They don't really start a true big. They start Nick Duncan, who's a stretch five, I guess you would call him. So I think the best bet may end up be going without a post player for part of that game and seeing how it goes. And if Pope is playing well, then that becomes very easy for them to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that was it was last year at Boise. If correct me if I'm wrong, that Duncan went off. I think he had like 6 threes in the first half.
Duncan went absolutely insane last year at Boise, as well as at San Diego State. He played well. He's a talented guy that can get his shot, and kind of he doesn't necessarily create his own shot, but he comes off those screens and has such a quick release that unless you have someone right up there in him, you give him any opening, he's going to pull and obviously be comfortable pulling it home inside Taco Bell Arena. With that being said, I think the guy that I would be most concerned about, other than him, would probably be Webb. Webb is a guy that I personally think is one of the top 2 or 3 players in the conference and has shown that time and time again this year. He's a rebounding animal. He's aggressive. He's got height. He can shoot. And I don't think there's really anything that scares him when it comes to getting to the hoop. With that being said, though, if you watch what he does and the way he reacts, if someone comes up and hits him in the mouth or plays that smash nose basketball that we were kind of playing early on before they started calling tic-tac fouls, and obviously the rules changed with the NCAA this year, he kind of gets him off his game a little bit. That's an aggressive Boise team that's, I think if we come out and hit first, we have a good shot to come away with a victory. I think it's going to be a hard-fought battle like it has been the last couple of years. And I think most of the games have come down to, under 5 points. I would expect nothing less of that, and I'm hoping that we can go in there and steal a victory. Getting a road win in conference is always difficult, regardless of who you're playing. But when you have one like Boise, if you can win one like that and come back either 4-1 or 5-0, we definitely set ourselves up to have the upper hand when it comes to conference, especially in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Webb is he's a total athletic freak. He's off the charts by all standards. I mean, it's not just like we're comparing him to mid-major talent. I mean, people have been considering him a prospect for a while.
Yeah,
he's scary as a help side shot blocker. When you think about trying to run offense against Boise, that's where he can really be scary. They went to that after Duncan cooled or Boise offense cooled off the second half of the game in Boise. They went to that 1-2-2 zone, and Webb literally just hung out at the basket. It was just so tough to score around there.
See, but I like that. I hope they run zone against us, because if you look to see what happened the last time San Diego State played against the zone, we were getting the ball inside, and we were getting pretty easy looks that were mostly dunks right at the rim, whether it was Zylan or whether it was Winston or whether it was I think Skylar was the other person who got a couple of them. I think Zylan got the majority of the looks down low off the cross screen and off the set that they were running. But it was quick. It was aggressive. It was a one dribble and up and power through it. And I think Zylan against Webb would be a pretty good matchup and a fun one. If you can get a guy like him in foul trouble early, that definitely helps the Aztecs in the long run. But I think it's going to come down to containing Duncan. Obviously, you have to keep an eye on Anthony Drimmick. He's the silent assassin, so to speak, and definitely their high motor guy for the team. And then Webb. If you can get Webb in foul trouble, I think it really pushes a lot of that over to guys that they might not be able to stand up to the pressure might not be able to stand up under pressure down, towards the later part of the game when it really matters.
Yeah, Drimmick is where I was going next, because I've watched him a couple times this year when I've had a chance, and with him being hurt last year, I forgot how ridiculously fast his release is on his jump shot. He'd be the trailer there on a fast break, and he just catches the ball, and a guy would be in a decent position to close out to his face, but he just got rid of the ball so quick.
Yeah.
He's a really talented scorer. So I mean, they'll have their hands full, but I think Duncan is a good place to start, because he's a guy where you cut him off if you just don't let him catch and shoot wide open threes.
Yeah. We can't let them get any easy looks. I think that's been one of the focal points the last couple of weeks is making sure the Aztecs close out with a high hand and get out to contest those 3-point shots. I know that our 2-point defense has been one of the top in the country the last couple of years, and I certainly would expect them to continue that, coming off of a week break and going in and being able to play against a good Colorado team and then a great Boise team.
Yeah, my last really specific thing I wanted to get to was I liked that San Jose State really pushed the team, and they had guys on the court that could shoot from the outside because it's kind of um, a good litmus test for how they can think about how they want to guard Boise, because San Jose State's bigs were knocking down threes.
Yep.
So that's a tape they can kind of look at. Skylar Spencer a couple times, a guy he knew could shoot threes. He was hanging out in the paint, and then you see him react. Oh no, I better get out there. It wasn't just him, a couple guys, but I really like seeing that in that game because that's something they can learn from heading into Boise.
Yeah, we definitely have talent. I think our defense has continued to be the strength of the Aztecs. I think our offense is rapidly gaining steam and improving. I think we finally have guys that are understanding the sets and their roles when it comes to the team. And I think, I'm pleasantly surprised that we've started the non-conference 3-0. I looking over the calendar, thought we might drop a game or two in the first couple, only because after the 7-6 start, I really wasn't sure how good we were. I know that everybody in the offseason was saying, oh, Final Four or Sweet 16 or Elite 8 and this and that. And then you come and you have a couple bad losses. To be honest, weren't all that bad. You look at Little Rock, Arkansas, who I think has lost 1 or 2 games all season. You look at Grand Canyon, who's lost a couple of games, and they had 1 blowout against Louisville. And then you see a USD team that, you chalk that up to youth. I think you don't know the exact reasons around what happened that day. One can certainly speculate, and I don't think that does us any good to focus on the past. But I know that this is a much different Aztec team that we saw the last game, and I think that we'll see going into this week and this weekend than we saw, even a month ago.
Yeah, I agree that the losses were almost a good thing because the team just needed to take some lumps to find its way. One thing I've started watching when I'm watching a game is Zylan Cheatham's eyes, because he always looks like a super intense guy, but you can see when he's engaged in a game, or if he makes a mistake, or if he does something great, you see that crazy focus in his eyes. And people have mentioned his ability to be a leader before, but I just love seeing that. It's easy to see with him, and that's something that's cool to see a guy that's so intense, and it's starting to rub off, I think.
Yeah, no, he's definitely our high intensity guy.
All right, well, thanks for making some time tonight, Jeff. Did you have any closing remarks?
I hope that everybody will come out tomorrow night. I realize that if you're here in San Diego, there's options to watch the games in several different spots. I think that the Alumni Association is hosting an event at the Groundswell Brewing Company at 6 o'clock. Hoping a lot of people will come out and watch a game with fellow Aztecs. And if not, just make sure to watch. I mean, I think, like I was saying earlier, this is a young team. We continue to see them improve. And I still think that this team has the potential to make a deep run into the postseason. And thank God we don't have Dave Rice.
Yeah, that was interesting. A lot of people had a lot of nice things to say about him. So I hope that just from now, I get that there's a rivalry there, but I hope that he can move on and just start somewhere new and have a chance at a fresh start, regardless of what you think of how much he actually failed there.
No, I agree. You hate to see any coach, flounder or have a hard time with the talent they're given, or recruit. I mean, obviously, you've seen the recruiting classes that have come through there, and I was not surprised at Coach Fisher's comments about I guess it was keeping a coach at the end of the season, and how it really came down to the people. I think it was the people with the money making the calls when a coach gets released halfway through the season, because there's really no upside in that. I mean, yeah, they're going to have their assistant coach step in and have an opportunity to coach the team for maybe half a year. Then they're going to have to replace Dave Rice, who, I think is an Aztec fan and someone who follows basketball and loves basketball. They've already got their coach on the bench if they want him with Stacy. And if they go someplace else, I wouldn't be surprised either. There's plenty of people that would love to go into UNLV and take over a program that's got a ton of potential and a ton of talent and do something great with it. And I think in the long run, it really truly only helps San Diego State and the Mountain West when teams like that do have the opportunity to have success in non-conference. And I think a lot of people get the wrong impression and want other teams from our conference to lose and have their not only the strength of schedule adversely affected, but also their overall record adversely affected. And I think that I'm hoping that most Aztec fans caught on to the fact that, hey, when everybody wins a non-conference, it only boosts our conference ratings and makes us that much more attractive to get multiple teams in the postseason.
Yeah, well, I think the whole conference might finally get that, because Colorado State found themselves on the outside looking at 27 wins, and now magically this season they actually played some people. So
yeah, well, a lot of that has to do with them teams getting fined too if their strength of schedule isn't above a certain standard. But it kind of makes you wonder: is that too little, too late? When it comes to the powers that are at the Mountain West Conference, and then you open up a whole can of worms when you get into the postseason tournament, being at Thomas and Mack again, and some of the football questionable football bowl game issues that came up and were brought up this year, and it might be a good time to shake things up in the Mountain West.
definitely. All right, well, that was all I had. Thanks again.
Awesome.
For making some time, Jeff, and hope they'll take home one tomorrow.
Sounds good. Go Aztecs.